Welcome to Inboxing. This is a third episode of Inboxing. This is the Inboxing podcast. I'm Hill Berg, your host. Every week we host a new guest from the email marketing world. And today's guest is going to be a very special guest because it comes from the other side of email, meaning the coding side. What we call the dev side or development. Email development is its own thing, and it's actually a wonderful community, and I actually am part of it. Just a little bit about Jay. He'll give his own introduction, I think, but there's a little bit about him. Jay was a digital marketer, did a lot of digital marketing for some other brands, and then at some point he decided he wanted to go like a little bit behind the scenes, and he joined up with Action Rocket, which is a wonderful email marketing. It's really an email comment. He'll give a little introduction to Action Rocket also, but Elliot Ross's agency that does email coding. So I guess they call it an email agency, based in London. He has a beautiful Queen's English, which is easy on American ears. And it's without further ado, I'm happy to bring in Jay Oram. Jay, welcome to the to Inboxing podcast.
Thanks for having me.
For sure. So do you want to give yourself a little introduction? Like I gave you a little bit.
I mean, you did a little bit, but yeah. So I work for Action Rocket. So Action Rocket is a design and code agency specifically for CRM and email. And so it's all of the majority of the team are designers, but then we have a couple of coders who specialize in email, and the whole team is kind of built around the specializing in email, with some strategy people and some consultants and things like that. So that's what Action Rocket is. And I'm a senior coder and interactive email specialist there. So I basically code emails all day and specialize in the ones that are a little bit more difficult. So that's what I do.
That's awesome. All right. What do you find upsetting in your inbox? Like as a coder, what do you know when you look at your emails? What kind of annoys you?
The most annoying is when you see an email that could be live text, but it turns out to be an all-image email. From a marketer's point of view, an all-image email might look better because the brand can be perfectly on brand with the brand fonts. You can mix the kind of layout around, and it's not too much of a problem, and you can have much more control over everything. But from an accessibility and deliverability and coding point of view, an all-image email could put you more into the spam box. People might not see it as much. You can end up with the deliverability issues of if that happens too often, your emails will stop being delivered or they'll be delivered slow and things like that. And accessibility-wise, if an email is all-image, then you obviously get they can't see everything that's in there, and you can't possibly describe it all. So yeah, that's the most upsetting thing. An all-image email that could easily have been just a few more lines of code to have live text would be, that's what I prefer.
Right. Do you feel like there's a big advantage to having custom coded emails, like over, now there's like a wealth of drag and drop, like almost like code your own email. Like, what would you say the advantages of custom coding is?
A custom coded email shouldn't be the email that happens every single day. If you use a WYSIWYG editor or a drag and drop editor or your ESP editor, then they're the kind of perfect for the everyday emails that are going out or things that you send regularly. Something that you can have a template made and then put into your WYSIWYG editor. So something like taxi-free mail where you can put up your own own code, but then use the WYSIWYG editor to kind of edit it. Or there's others like Stripo or B3, or there's so many out there now that you can kind of put your own template in, but then if you're a marketer, then you can still use it by just drag and drop. And then those custom coded emails, the special ones, should be maybe something that happens a lot. So like a birthday email, for example, if you're a brand and you want to send an email to someone on their birthday, maybe you should add an interactive element or something a bit out of the inbox kind of craziness. That you spend some more time on that, but then you can kind of set it and use it over and over again. Or if you've got a big launch, so brand new product or a new service that you're launching, maybe at that point you would get a custom coded one. So you can either, I mean, custom coded is like, you can either custom code a whole design system, so get the template in, get all of your colors, all of everything exactly as you want, and then kind of move that into your ESP or system so that you can edit it freely. Or custom coded could be those like one-offs, like I mentioned. And I think they're the benefits, definitely.
Right, no, for sure. And I think there's a lot. It's interesting because I come also from that world, from the dev world. And I always think like, why not every email should be, like custom coded? But the more I'm seeing like, building emails for other people and using WYSIWYG editors, like I say, you can do a lot. Something just happened yesterday. I'm using someone to help me just, convert from the MailChimp editor to make it look more personalized customly. So what's interesting is I'm noticing even things that from the dev world, like I would always like never use like bulleted lists, without using the bulletproof bulleted list that's been like tested in all the platforms, and it's like a huge article in Litmus, and she just was doing regular UL regular without any custom code, just regular unordered list and list elements, and I checked it on like all the major platforms and it just worked. Like it didn't, like maybe the email world caught up a little bit. Like there's not as many buggy ones out there, or
I mean, there's odd kind of, it's always the edge cases. I think that's the thing that if it depends what you're coding for, and like I think when we've chatted before about this, where if your audience is completely Apple, for example, then why would you bother worrying about the Outlook 2007 on Windows? If your audience are not there, then you're not going to bother. And the custom coding lets you kind of choose the level of support that you want to do. And progressively enhancing emails is kind of the whole idea of what the developers are doing. So we can definitely get a plain bulleted list with no colors, no links. That can all work everywhere. But as soon as you want to add a custom bullet image, or if you want to add different indents, different padding, different margin, all around it with other bits and pieces mixed in, maybe inline images or something like that, that's when all of a sudden it doesn't look right in Outlook, and then you need someone to come in and do the specific email hack or whatever it is that gets it right, kind of thing.
Right.
But the plain old HTML works.
Yeah, and I think that really comes in more when you're getting a custom design, and the design isn't exactly the way it comes out in code.
No.
But I'm, when the email I was specifically talking about is really just like a text email. So yeah, it doesn't really matter. But yeah, when you're using bullet, a lot of times using bullet, I'm sorry, I struggle a little slower. When you're using bulleted list is really a hack. It's not looking like a list. It looks like something else entirely. Then you definitely need custom coding.
Mm-hmm.
All right. What was your biggest email mistake, as a custom coder?
So it happened just before I started as like a full-time custom coder at Action Rocket. I was kind of dabbling in the coding part, and a friend was launching a new online magazine, and he was using an online publishing editor thing that I'd never seen before. And we put in everything that was correct, and then clicked the button that said preview. And we thought that preview meant it would send us a preview, or it would bring a preview up on the screen. But in that particular program, preview actually meant send the email to everyone. So we obviously
that's bad UX.
yeah, exactly. So all of a sudden we were really confused as to what had happened. And luckily there was nothing bad in it. And it didn't take us long to realize what had happened. And then we kind of quickly put together the correct email and sent it out with a oops kind of thing. But yeah, the brand new online magazine launch with thousands of people who got the first email they got was a load of just lorem ipsum kind of mixed in with random images. So it wasn't perfect, but yeah, that was kind of the biggest kind of thing that went on.
Right, but that one, give yourself a pat on the back, because that doesn't sound like your fault at all. If someone made a preview button that sends the email to everyone, it's just ridiculous.
Yeah, but before I press anything now, I double check what it does first.
Check the documentation.
Yeah.
That's always a good idea. What was your biggest win? Like an email you're super proud of?
There's two really. There's the the win of getting an automation journey from someone that's been handed from dev to dev to dev to dev, and there's loads of fixes and loads of bloated code in there where someone's gone in and said, oh, I want something to be red, so they've just added a big make it red important thing in there, and stripping it down to a brand new kind of way of single column coding, not very much code in there, stripping something that was like over 100 kilobytes and making Gmail cut it off down to kind of 10, 20 kilobytes, and then using that same design and template throughout a whole journey, and the whole thing looked great from start to finish, and integrating with the ESP and with the personalization and the data that they'd set up. That was a massive win. The first time that ever happened, where everything from the welcome all the way to like the 6-month thank you kind of email, everything was put together. That was a really big thing for me anyway. But getting the strategy and the design and the client and everyone all joined up and everything was like a really good feeling. And then obviously like a big massive interactive email that I've done either with Pizza Express, or one that just came to mind was we worked with Babylon Health, who launched an app, and in New Year they launched like a health checker, and we did an interactive AMP email for them and a CSS interactive email. And when we put that out there, it was one of the first kind of AMP emails that went from Braze, was the ESP, and they got, I think it was a 50 or 60% uplift in click-throughs, and then also a 20% or something like that, 20% increase in app use. Just from that email. So having an interactive email that we really worked on hard and used new technology, and then also seeing the results from the other end is really good. Something that agencies often, that particularly in our kind of development, I imagine you've probably seen it the same, you don't often get the end results analysis. You kind of get we want the design to look perfect, you get the amends, you get the rendering issues, but you never hear about the click-through gets better, or the results of what you've spent months and months working on. Yeah, we often don't get that. So when we do get that, it's really nice to hear. So yeah, that's definitely a big thing for us.
Yeah, I'd love to hear a little bit more about, I mean, I don't know, I assume most of our audience doesn't know too much about AMP for email.
AMP for email.
So what exactly is it, and like how can people use it?
So AMP for email is just an extra bit of code that Google, an open source that started at Google, it's now open source, is AMP. And AMP stands for Accelerated Mobile Pages. And if you go to Google and you search, normally those little news icons that come up with the like little stories, they're normally AMP pages, and they've just been made specifically faster with lighter code and work great on mobile. So they realized that also converts well to email. So the same functionalities that are available, majority of the functionalities that are available for those AMP pages, they've made available for email developers. And that you have to have, it's a separately coded email. So it's, as well as your HTML and your plain text email, you'll have an AMP email. So it's something extra to do. But it allows you to make things a little bit more interactive in inboxes that previously weren't. So because Google was the first people to kind of start it, Gmail and Gmail app support AMP emails. Mail.ru is another one. Yahoo and AOL are going to support it. So more inboxes are supporting AMP, and ESPs are starting to support it as well. With Braze was one of the first ones. Spark Post was another one. Map have said they're going to support it. So more ESPs are coming online. So basically it's those interactive emails that you see only working on Apple, where you get like a tap to reveal or a carousel, and those kind of things can now be brought into Google and used in Gmail. But they also add in a little bit extra where you can actually pull in live content. So if you had like an online store with loads of products, if something's sold out, previously, obviously, with a HTML email, if it's sold out, it would just be in the email and it would be wrong. If you had it live connected, then it could just update to the next product. So it's another dimension of something to be added. But it's just about it's been around for a couple of years, but right. ESPs have just started to kind of give it support, and big ESPs like Braze and Salesforce, they're starting to roll out support in the new year. So hopefully more people will be trying it at least, and then we'll see it appearing more and more in inboxes as well. So yeah, another aspect of interactive email that people can get interested in.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I mean, I think, do you still need, I mean, just from my own experience, like you have to register to use it or something? There was some kind of registration you had to do?
There was, at the beginning, there was you had to get whitelisted with each inbox. So you had to be whitelisted for Gmail, then you had to be whitelisted for mail.ru, and etc. But they've made that much easier now. So you just have to get whitelisted once, and then it works anywhere AMP does. And the whitelisting is a lot easier, where before there was lots of things that you had to meet. Now it's things that every email probably already has, like if you've already got DMARC, SPF already set up, if the domains that you're pointing to are your domains rather than someone else's, and I think it was something, I think the spam score had to be a certain level before, and it's not as strict as it was. So a lot more emails should be able to be whitelisted. So
I mean, I see that from my own, from my clients. Like my clients, I mean, just another example of something that we can use as developers, is the promotions tab code. And people are familiar with this, but there's actually code you can find on the internet. There's a few different platforms that just make it easy for you. But yeah, look this up. Google promotions tab.
Yeah, Fresh Inbox. I've got a tool where you can literally.
Fresh Inbox had a great tool. I use that. I was forgetting the name of it, but yeah, Fresh Inbox has a tool. So just do promotions tab, Fresh Inbox, and you'll find this tool. And what you can actually do, if you have access to custom coding, you can. How can I explain this well? But basically, your subject lines, your email will sort of like float to the top. And after some time, either because it's a client of yours or it's an interest of yours, but you might have seen this already in your Gmail, where like, let's say travel or food or recipes, it'll come up and categorize them in like a blurb of 3 or 4 emails that came into your inbox that day. So if you have this code in your inbox, you can have a banner, like a full banner in your Gmail, that's promoting whatever you're promoting, and it's like a tremendous resource. I do it for my clients, but it's amazing because I'm like seeing it with my clients, and like it's like all recipes, and like it's booking.com and my client, like of all the travel emails that I'm getting. So it definitely seems like it's something that's underutilized out there. But I guess something to think about is that for the most part, many companies are just using the WYSIWYG, and there's often no way to insert that kind of thing into the WYSIWYG. I was even surprised certain ESPs are stripping, that code out of their, they're nervous about it. It's actually, I remember when I first started using it, I couldn't use. They have 2 formats: JSON, I think it's JSON.
Yeah, JSON and microdata. Yeah.
Nice. JSON was getting stripped, which sort of makes sense because it's sort of like JavaScript. But the other one's microdata, and it's really just divs and lookups, and it doesn't seem like anything harmless. Like it seems totally harmless. Like I don't know what the fear is or why ESPs would be stripping it. I'm pretty sure MailChimp strips it. I'm pretty sure they strip it out. So,
used to, yeah. I know they definitely stripped the JSON version. I don't know if you could get the microdata one to work. I can't remember.
I tried it, I don't know, like 6 months ago for a client, and it definitely stripped it out. Yeah.
But I feel like they should, like MailChimp should be building that into their editor, right? Like there's no
make it easy for people. Like why not? It's just a matter of putting in a logo URL and a banner URL, and that's it.
Yeah.
Oh, and some text, maybe, your subject line, they like because they highlight the subject line.
Yeah. But the subject line and the from name is all pulled from the email already. So it is literally the image, and if you've got a deal or something. So it shouldn't be much. And
make it easy for people to take advantage of these amazing tools.
Yeah. In Email Weekly that we send, we actually, because we just experiment with that anyway, that was one of the first places we just stuck the code to see what would happen. And what I know, because obviously I read it every time because I send it, there was a couple of times I didn't read it. And then a week later, it pops up at the top as a promotion, like you said, with the banner and stuff in my inbox. So obviously, like, to know that an email that I always read, and if I miss one, it's going to highlight it at the top for me. Like that, why would you not want that on your email? That seems like
exactly.
Yeah.
It's a great feature, and it just lets you pop up to the top of, bubble up. Like everyone's trying to stand out in the inbox, and there's no better way to stand out than using that promotions tab feature.
There's actually a cool tool as well from I think it's from Peak Inbox, and if you use them, you can track how many times your banner actually comes up. Yeah, and you can track clicks on it as well, because they've figured out a way that you can do that. So that's another, like, and I think you can use their tool to create the code as well, so you can kind of get everything from them and the image on there, and then you can see how many times it's actually used, so you can get all that analytics and data that you want as the marketer to prove that something's working and it's worth the effort. Peak Inbox have got that sorted. So another tool that you can just go and have a look at.
Yeah, that's awesome. Would you have like a top 5 tips, email tips in general? Because from marketing.
I have a few. Yeah, so one of the big ones is think of the recipient. So who you're sending to should be the top of your mind whenever you're creating an email, and especially like what do they want? What are they going to get out of your email? If you're just sending like the latest thing and it's not going to interest them, they're not going to open it. So obviously it's the content. Another thing is the content is important. So the first thing is what do people want, and the second one is the content you're putting in there needs to be worth their attention and their time. They're two big things. Another thing that I don't understand why people don't do it is personalization in an email. Even I think I've seen loads and loads of studies about it, but like if you just add someone's first name in a subject line, often they get a higher open rate than if you don't. So don't do it every time, obviously, but if there's things that you can test, then even just the simple personalization of having a first name in a subject line, you should give it a go. And then obviously the more personalized an email experience can be, the more chance of someone wanting to open your email. So those three things are good. Another thing, number 4, I guess, is listen to your whole team. So even though you're in a marketing department and you're doing the marketing, listen to your coder or your developer, or listen to your designer, or listen to the social media intern that you've just got started, and see if you get as much information as possible, then you'll know more. And you definitely feel like smaller companies that are startups that maybe have less staff and are kind of working closer together, things seem to move quicker through the system to get into emails, or the information that the person that's packing the boxes in the warehouse knows more than the person that's making the emails knows. And if everyone's talking to each other, you'll definitely get a better, but I think that's all marketing anyway. But email specifically kind of, it adds to that.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely feel like I agree with you strongly on that point. That there just wasn't enough when I worked in dev, like no one really asked me what we could do with the email or how we should design the email. I mean, but it was also on me. I should have been, saying, hey,
Yeah, and that brings on to number 5, which was like progressively enhance your email to make it better for the people that you can make it better for. Like we said earlier, with the if you know your audience is all using Outlook and Lotus Notes, then maybe limit the amount you're progressively enhancing it. But if you start there and everyone gets a great experience in Outlook, then the next thing to do is add some hover effects to make it look a little bit better in Gmail, add some rounded corners, something like that. And then the next thing is you could add a bit of movement and a bit of animation and CSS transitions or animations to your already existing design template, and that would look that little bit better in Apple Mail or something like that. And smaller progressive enhancements I think are good. There's no reason why every email should be a massive carousel, hover, tap to reveal thing. But if every button just has a little hover effect that matches your website, then that just brings in the brand a little bit more to your email. So yeah, those are the kind of top five tips there.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of good ones, and a lot of them stand out. And for some reason in my head, like I'm just thinking progressive, it kind of reminds me of American football. You get American football, they always say like take what the defense gives you. So think of ESPs as like, well, they're the defense. It's very light defense in Apple, a little easier with and it's a tough defense outlook. So
yeah, I agree. Yeah.
Think what you could get, if you could, so you can create one email that really will show a beautiful email on every platform, really. And that's really the goal, and really what happens with, yeah. And then on the hands of personalizing, yeah, it's upsetting to me anyway. I think when we see companies that have a lot of customer data in your personal life, like I know companies, they should know the ages of all my kids, and they should stop sending me, I should have the most personalized email experience. A company I've been shopping for with my children, from every age.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be a guesswork. It should just be like, oh, for that kid, or even ask me what are the name of my kids, and they can send me, oh, we have a great, for that, I'm saying my kids on the air, but there should be so much personalization in email, and I hope that maybe 2021 we'll see a lot more of that.
Yeah, one of my favorite personalizations was from Major League Soccer in America, where the MLS league has hundreds of football clubs. There's so many in America. But when you sign up and tell them what team you support, and then the emails are tailored with the colors of your team and the news towards your team. Because obviously, if there was hundreds of football teams, every time I open the email, I don't want to read about everyone else's news. I want to read about what my club does. So getting that data really helped them to kind of give me that personalized experience. And none of that data is like, it's not like my birthday and my mother's maiden name and my password. It's literally just a football team that I like. So yeah, no one would have qualms giving over that kind of information. And I'm sure there's other examples of that.
Yeah, like you said, and that makes the entire experience like so much more enjoyable, because it's not like I guess what we're both talking about is that when people use email like a billboard, like, just the blast of something and will hit some people.
Yep.
And you make it a very personalized experience, like then everyone's interested, because you're really talking to them. And I guess that's like the number one tip is talk to your audience, talk to the person you're talking to.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you feel like are the top pitfalls?
I think I have this, and I fully admit to it, and my managers always are pulling me back, but I have that shiny syndrome where something comes up that's brand new, that is kind of, like a parallax email, or kind of an AMP for email was a perfect example where Google launched it like May 14th, May 15th. I was out there coding, trying to figure out what it was, but there was no ESPs that could send an AMP email. So it didn't matter what I was doing. But that
could you even test it?
Sorry?
Could you even test it? Like,
yeah, well, they had their own like developer window that you could create it in, and it would show you a preview. And I think you could send it to your own Gmail, and that was it.
Okay.
And you can only send one email. But yeah, that kind of you don't need to, even adding all these interactive things is not going to make your click-through better or your open rate better or anything really. All of these things should enhance what a user experiences, and that's what it should be used for. So don't just make a interactive carousel because you can. The interactive carousel should be there because it conveys more information to your audience and it gives them a better experience in your email. That's why you should use those things. And yeah, that a top pitfall I see is emails that are filled with stuff that you don't need it, or overcomplicating a message, that kind of thing. Or yeah, another big one is just so much stuff stuffed into an email. I can see by the look on your face you've had this before. It's
it's like today. I have a new client. Exactly. Like they showed me their newsletter is like like a page and a half of scrolling, a big paragraph of text and then some pictures and some other things. It's like, break it up. And I'm for sure, that's what we're in the business for, to make things better, and for sure some of the audience doesn't read that paragraph and they would rather not see it, and just send another one, see the weekend pictures and things like that. We'll talk about the results of that maybe in a few weeks. But
one of my the strategy team and the head designer Gary, who I work with, they have, like, whenever they talk to our clients, they really share that email on your mobile is like another app. It's another social media app, and email, and your phone is constantly being bombarded with notifications and updates, and you only get that split kind of 10-20 seconds before someone's distracted by something else. So if your email doesn't have that open it, draw you in that first 10, 15, 20 seconds, then you've lost it. So it doesn't matter how long it is, you need to get that opening perfect. And every email is different. I listen, I can't remember what it's called now, but I get an email that is a really long, it's just basically loads and loads of text. It's one big massive magazine article, and I love that and I read it, but that one specific one I always open and read. But other emails that have got a tiny little paragraphs of text, sometimes I don't read that because I'm not interested. So it's definitely testing who and how you send it as well. And yeah, that, like you've said before, if you A/B test a long email or a short email, you'll find what your audience wants. So yeah, definitely focus on what's there.
Yeah. Do you guys at Action Rocket, run A/B tests for clients, or you just set up two variations, or how does that work?
We try to. So we're majority design and dev, so we don't often see the kind of strategy side of things. But our strategy team is grown in the last year, and a couple of clients we've worked with a bit more. But often the limitations are that the ESP isn't set up for it, or because we often don't deploy for clients. We just hand over the finished HTML and then they do the deployment. We might not see that next part of it. But we do work with them to figure out what they should A/B test and what they can do better and things like that. And then with some clients, we do work with them on the results. But yeah, there's definitely, I think that's probably more what your agency is kind of working towards, rather than, ours is definitely more design and code than that kind of side.
Yeah, definitely. In our agency, a huge part of the whole strategy is A/B testing. Because we want to set up automations so we can constantly be improving. It's like that 1% a day. It makes a huge deal at the end of the year. It's definitely a strategy everyone should be using.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that bit actually is growing, definitely. But yeah, we're not there with all of our clients yet.
Right, you're not there. You're not the full agency. You're really just a part of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Do you have any favorite brands, or
either B&Q has been an old favorite. B&Q were one of the first people I saw that used the checkbox hack to kind of create a multi-tab. So having them come in just to see what they're working on is like a nice interactive team.
What is B&Q for the people who don't live in the UK?
Oh, yeah, of course. B&Q is I didn't even think about that. A B&Q is like a home improvement, so tools and wallpaper and like that kind of thing. So it's not something that is like shout out like I really want to see it. It's kind of like I'm doing decorating at home. I'll click on the B&Q and see what paintbrushes they do or whatever. But their emails seem to put across like information and ideas in a really nice way that it's a really interesting one to look at. And another brand I really like is Nespresso, the coffee capsules. The kind of their brand is really nice brand throughout the whole of their emails. And I think they have like a nice standout kind of. It's not your run-of-your-mill coffee kind of thing. It's like an extra step up to get an espresso coffee, and I think that comes across in their emails as well. And they're kind of really interesting, and they're the ones that I like to receive and look at. So yeah, I think that was it. Yeah.
What's your email client? You have an Apple device, I assume?
Well, so I actually have a Google Pixel phone. So Gmail is where I receive all my own emails. But yeah, we work on Macs at Action Rocket. So yeah, Apple Mail is there. And yeah, I mean, probably the same as you. I've got 6 mobile phones on my desk and 2 PCs and a Mac ready for testing. So if I want to see an email in anything, I can see it in whatever I like anyway. But yeah.
Do you feel like the big brands, like you really need to do real device testing as opposed to just like litmusing it or using a software that does?
We found that the best thing to do is use email and acid or litmus to test, and then the final check is just to send it to the live devices, just have a peek and see if anything's changed. Sometimes it's quicker for us to update devices than wait for the email and acid or litmus to update their rendering. So we want to get the latest as soon as possible. But also there is sometimes we actually use email and acid and litmus. And we also have clients obviously have their own, so return path or something like that. And often the email might look slightly wrong in a couple of different ones, but for different reasons. And the kind of final test is to send it to a live device and see what the actual email client is doing. Especially some older versions like Android 5, 6, 7, those kind of older Androids, they're not as common on litmus and email and acid, but we've got the device in case we need it. And some of our clients say, like, we know we've got a 10-15% audience on Android 7. So
okay.
can you test it, kind of thing. So yeah, we've got them all in case we want them. And just by our testing starts with email and acid, and then what we can't do in email and acid we'll do in litmus, or the opposite way around. And then we'll send it to all of our devices. And then once we're happy, we actually then give it to another coder, and they do the check all over again to make sure we haven't missed anything. So it's a proper
QA guy?
Yeah. No, it's just there's only 2 of us. There's 2 on the code team.
Oh, okay.
I test his, he tests mine, and then it should, fingers crossed, by the end of that we've caught everything.
Amazing. Something you mentioned a little bit earlier is accessibility. So you want to talk a little bit about that? What does that mean when we're talking about accessibility in email?
So accessibility is just accessibility is how someone can access the content that you're giving. And obviously you want as many people as possible to see your email or receive the information from your email as best as possible. For the UK, we know that 20% of the UK have some kind of disability. So that's what 1 in 5 people have something that could possibly stop them seeing or getting your email as well as possible. And then Elliot Ross, you mentioned earlier, he also kind of brought up in one of his talks that you do get situational accessibility issues as well, where maybe you can't reach your phone because you're holding a baby, or you've got one hand, you've broken your arm, so it's not a permanent disability, but you've broken your arm and you can't use 2 hands, or partial hearing loss or something like that. So accessibility is just about using all the tools and code and design possible to make your email as accessible to as many people as possible. So things like making the text nice and clear, so you're not using a font which is all joined together and difficult to read, or squashed up, or the font's really small so it's harder for people with eyesight problems that can't see things. The contrast is there so that if some people maybe are colorblind, or they have other issues with seeing, or maybe they're looking in a low light environment or something like that, maybe they can't differentiate between colors. So if your text is like a light gray on a white background, sometimes that's really difficult to see. So making sure that contrast ratio is there. And then also on the other kind of more extreme side is if maybe you can't see it at all, and you need a screen reader or a tool like Alexa or Google or something to read your email to you. And if your email is made up of a load of images which don't have any alternative text, or maybe it's made up of loads of divs and they're all in funny orders, so it reads your email out in a really weird way, that possibly isn't the best experience for all of your recipients. So accessibility is just about, from the design, making sure it looks great and everyone can see it and it's all clear, and then in the code making sure that there's all the things there necessary for everyone to be able to read it. So that's kind of, and Action Rocket, we start at that base level of it has to be accessible, and then we make all of our design choices and coding starts from there. So we use semantic tags, so H1 to H6 or however many you want to go to, and then paragraph tags, making sure we have area tags and section tags on things so that everything makes sense to a screen reader, and all added extras like that, styled alt text in case the images, because another thing like I mentioned before about all image emails is if someone has images blocked, maybe they're a business and they've blocked images by default, or it's the first time you've sent them an email. If your email is all images and they block them completely, then maybe there's nothing there. So the alt text, we can actually style it to look like the rest of the text in your email, and make it look nicer, which is, and get the important information across as well. So
yeah, or even or they could be opening your email in an elevator, and you just don't have, just it's slow to load.
No, exactly. I mean, even like, because some people use the argument of, well, I work in central London, there's 5G, there's like super speed Wi-Fi, there's Wi-Fi on the trains, why would I ever need to worry about sending like a 2 megabyte GIF or something? And then you say to them, well, what if you go into a tunnel, or like you said, you go into a building where the signal's not very good, or the one time you open it, you're in the countryside away on a holiday. All those situations. And then also, if your audience is global, then there's differing accessibility all over. So it's definitely something to think about.
I was shocked. A friend of mine sent me an email and asked me about video in email, and she sent me an email, and it was a GIF that was like a minute-long GIF. It was like 20 megabytes. And I was like, who the heck is sending like that? That seems insane to me. Like,
yeah. Also, if you've got a there's Dylan who works at Litmus. He shared with me a website where you can put in your website, and it will tell you how much it costs in different places of the world to download all of the information. So I'll find that and share it with you so you can share with people. But yeah, it basically, like, you put in your like 10 kilobyte all text email, and you can see that across the world, maybe someone who doesn't have access to Wi-Fi and they have to use cellular data and they're on 3G, and it costs them so much money to download a megabyte. And you think, wow, that's a big thing. Whereas, if you sent a 20 megabyte GIF, that could be their whole month's data wiped out in one email. So you definitely got to think about those kind of things.
Yeah, no, that's definitely not something I was thinking about. There was a big hubbub this year. I think towards the summer, it started becoming, everyone was talking about dark mode and how that's affecting the email world, and it affected everything, really. And nothing to do with Corona, really. But
no.
But dark mode is definitely here, and it's going to be here and get more and more popular. I feel like, the dev community started dark world, no? Like, that's what I've, like growing up, only people who are using like those dark background editors were coders. But now it's getting much more popular because it's easier on the eyes, and and low battery is the next thing. Because when I got the latest version of Android, whenever I got low battery, my entire Gmail went to dark mode. That probably happened around June or July, I think. Then it became center.
Dark mode has been it's been around for a long time, but it's kind of hit the mainstream in the last year, isn't it? So I think I read that one of the earliest apps that ever used dark mode was an app called Reader, and its purpose was that you could download website pages to read later, and they were the first app that when it got to nighttime, or you said you was in a dark room, you could switch to dark mode. So it would switch the background to black and the text to white. And that was kind of the first app where dark mode was like actually called dark mode. And originally it was for reading in the dark. And then obviously the first computer screens ever that came out were black with the green letters on. And that was just because they couldn't make a white screen. That was nothing to do with trying to make it dark. But yeah, like OLED screens, like you said, the latest screens, if you're using black, it's less battery power. So that made sense. And the real push for email clients seems to have come from operating systems. So Apple and Android said around summer, your app, if it doesn't work on dark mode, we're just going to force it to do dark mode. So then that was it. Everyone had to either do whatever Apple's dark mode was, or create your own custom styles for dark mode. So that kind of where it pushed it to. And like you said, my Android on the latest, whatever it is, Android 11, 12, that has, as soon as I turn battery saver on, everything goes to dark mode, including Gmail. And my wife's phone actually came default dark mode as an Android.
Wow.
So yeah, there's possibly a lot of people that are using dark mode more than were using it before. And yeah, from a developer point of view, it meant that all of our designs overnight possibly changed, and we didn't have as much control over how they looked. And there was kind of a scramble for a couple of months where people were trying to find little little ways to target different things with CSS, or if there was ways to override it and do bits and pieces. And yeah, we've kind of at Action Rocket, we've kind of I was kind of, well, me and you were on Email Geeks, and everyone was kind of chatting back and forth about, oh, I've found this media query prefers color scheme. Oh, I found this meta tag about prefers dark or light. And then, yeah, all the other one, like the data attributes that Mark found for Outlook. And then loads of people started to try and put things together.
Mark Robbins you're referencing there?
Yeah, Mark Robbins. Yeah. And I think, yeah, I think Remy was one of the first people to find the kind of prefers color scheme. And then obviously Litmus came out with the first article on how to deal with it from Alice Lee. And then shortly I wrote a big article for Campaign Monitor and some stuff for Action Rocket as well, to try and kind of get as much information all together that the whole community kind of found. And then more people have kind of added.
Yeah, I made my own article, and it was a lot based on what you did.
Yeah, so there's loads of, like, everyone trying to like came together as we normally do in the email community to go, oh my god, everything's kind of hit the fan, what do we do now? And everyone kind of worked together to try and solve things, which is a really nice thing to be part of. But yeah, and then at Action Rocket, we then took that on board, and probably the same as yourself, the minimum we do now is to make sure that it looks not broken in dark mode. So on the worst possible place, which sometimes is a toss up between Windows 10 Mail in dark mode and the Office 365 app in dark mode. We make sure that everything works and is readable and you can see everything, whether that's by making sure the PNGs or making sure images are PNGs to begin with, or making sure dark thin lines have an outline or something like that. Right the way up to, we can make a totally custom dark mode version show in clients that will support the CSS. So we work on that range, but yeah, the basic is it will work and it will look correct.
It broken anywhere.
Yeah,
it should never break. It's
yes.
like it's a good rule for all emails everywhere. They should never look broken.
Yeah, that's where we all start from anyway. But yeah. So yeah, it's definitely something. Yeah, I mean, it was a big shock, and I think a lot of people, but it just needs to be on marketers' minds, I think, and that's something that we still find that people don't know about. So we still have clients that maybe they don't have a development team and they just use the template that they've always had, and the first time they realize something's wrong with dark mode is someone gets a new phone and opens their email and goes, oh my god, what is this? Yeah, so it's still not out there. So the more people that know that dark mode is a thing is definitely good.
Yeah, for sure. And I really love what you did in your article specifically. It's just that little, putting a white line around your dark, if you have dark logos, you put a white line around it. And then in dark, it actually looks really awesome.
Yeah, and it's not a big change. And another thing that marketers shouldn't worry about is that dark mode doesn't mean that your whole system needs to change. It's just that maybe, like, if you have a dark logo, I can't remember which one I saw. There was like a brand that was a really big brand, but their logo was just like a black circle with the icon in the middle. And then in dark mode, it disappeared. And I think it's SitePoint is the like a web design and information agency. Those guys there. Who else? Loads of them, actually. There's quite a lot of dark logos, and they all disappear on that dark background. So just by adding an outline, like you said, it will just means you don't lose your logo, which is obviously a really important part of the email. So
for sure.
and social media icons as well. They're that. Yeah, the little black F or the little black bird for Twitter just totally disappears on the black background. So
yeah, I think we saw in your article, I think you had a Twitter bird in a circle or something like that, and yeah, the bird disappeared.
Yeah.
So
if you want people to click on stuff, they need to be able to see it. So
it's important. All right. Is there anything you want to add? I mean, I don't know if you have any questions for me?
Yeah. So obviously I code whatever someone needs me to do, but what's the way that you code emails, like, as a starting place? Like, where do you start from?
Oh, yeah, no, so that's a really good question because I don't start with a PSD. Like I don't, I'm not a designer. I don't consider myself a designer, but like I can do a decent design, just because you've been building emails from a PSD for a while, you know how things should more or less look. So I use like the hybrid method on all my
Mhm.
emails with custom CSS, whatever needed, to move things around and you play with it. What's fun about emails, and I find the fun side of email is that you could put, a table in a table, just make everything work somehow. You just add another table inside it and then then it'll work, or, things like that. But yeah, I mean, that was such an eye-opening thing. Like for me is talking about like in, I think 2015, that we can get Gmail to work. Because Gmail was such a bugaboo until that hybrid method came out. Nicole Merlin, God bless her soul. But yeah, that was, I mean, I didn't really consider myself a developer until that article. Like I was using like WYSIWYGs, and we'd buy like an Envato,
Mhm.
templates, and we were like, and I don't know if they bloat them on purpose, but like there's so much code, and this all boilerplate kind of stuff, and it just, for someone who's not used to that, like you're just afraid to do anything except for change the text. And then like if your text is a little longer than what they had in the template, you just broke the whole thing.
Mhm.
They give you like a little title, and if your title's a little longer, then you broke it. So
Yeah.
at some point, I said, like, you know what, this is really frustrating. Like, I want to know how to code, and I just rebuilt our template using that method, and that was how I really got started. And then I just, yeah, just if you start doing that for like 3-4 years in a row, then you really know what you're doing. But yeah, for my clients, yeah, I build, yeah, using that hybrid method. Yeah, it can get as creative as you want. That's sort of the fun part of it.
Do you use specific tools as well? Like I think you spoke to Avi recently about Parcel, didn't you? I think I saw
Who did I speak to?
Avi Goldman about Parcel. Use
Oh
Parcel.
yeah,
Yeah,
for sure. Avi Goldman, yeah, for
yeah.
sure. Yeah, he's working on that. What's it called? Dispatch? Is it called Dispatch? No, it's called
Parcel is the
Parcel. Yeah, I don't
yeah
know
yeah.
why everything's related to real mail,
Hmm.
but packages. Yeah, but yeah, he did an amazing thing. Like I was very impressed with his tool, because there were so many things. My main tool is Litmus Builder. I'm in Builder all the time.
Hmm.
But it's always like there's things there's things that bother me in Litmus, like just stupid things, like grammar check. Like I'm using Grammarly and everything, but
Hmm.
in the rendering window, it can't read it. So what would happen is, and this is such a frustrating thing, I build an email for a client, and I do my own check, but like there's no spell check. And
Hmm.
it's also a thing about international stuff, because the guy writing the content, he was actually Australian. So he'd spell it his way, and the audience is really American, so it shouldn't have any, U's in it, for color
Hmm.
or things like that. So yeah, so what happened is when I'm copying it over and it pulls up the text version in the ESP, and then Grammarly is taken over, and it's like, oh yeah, that's misspelled, and you need a comma there, you need this and that. Then I have to go back to the code and fix it all up and put it back again.
Hmm.
So that's one example. And I spoken to Dylan, actually, Dylan Smith from Litmus. We had a little call, and they actually gave me like, I don't know, $10 or $20 from Amazon for the courtesy. Yeah, the other thing I actually asked them to do is if we can get take a screenshot directly from Builder of what
Hmm.
you just coded. You
Yeah.
probably do the same thing because you have to get approvals, right? Are you
Hmm.
taking pictures of the email that you just coded?
Yeah, well, I use either Parcel has got the kind of you can send the link, or there's emailpreview.io. You've probably seen that as well. That you can just plug in the code and it will send you a screenshot.
Oh, nice. I didn't know about that tool.
Yeah, that's super handy. Or yeah, I mean, I do also use the inbuilt developer tools in Chrome. Lets you do a full page screenshot as well. So you're kind of depending on where I am,
Right.
kind of what I'm doing. But
More recently, I had one client about I don't know, 6 months to a year ago, where I wasn't really using. I mean, I learned a lot with this client because she kept asking for different things, and she was like 7 emails with the same like 8 bullet points. And then I changed one, but not the other. So now I was like starting to make partials. I never used partials before really until then. But I would use a lot of what's the other part of partials? Snippets. I use snippets all the time. All the time like crazy. Yeah, exactly. You have all your shortcuts. You know, tab, boom, button. You know, things like that. One call, two call, three call. It makes development really easy. Yeah, so yeah, what I'm doing is I'm doing a preview onto Apple Mail and then opening it in big and then taking a screenshot of that. It's more work than it should be. So, yeah, Avi Goldman, like he incorporated all the things I thought were missing there. I wish him a lot of luck and let him know he got a shout out here.
Yeah.
Actually, well, a lot of people got shout outs in this episode, so we should tag them when we publish this. But yeah, no, and I see there's other. I mean, I never tried Stripo or any of these other tools, but Stripo is really just drag and drop, right?
Yeah, you can do some custom stuff with it, but yeah, it's mainly drag and drop. And then yeah, I mean, there's so many out there now that I don't think I could name them all. But yeah, like B3.
Yeah, do you know what Dispatch is doing? I know they're doing some kind of thing with video.
Not perfectly, no. I've heard of it, but I've not properly looked into it. But yeah,
I haven't probably
so many things coming up. So
yeah, no, there's a lot of cool stuff happening. I mean, something I'm personally working on and trying to, get into is the B2B world more. And there's a lot of cool opportunities there in terms of video, video replies, things like that, automated replies that are videos are very cool. There's a lot of platforms fighting for that traffic, for that capability.
I think I've heard of Playable.
Oh yeah, I haven't heard of Playable. I've heard of I think it's called Buongiorno or something like that, or Buongiorno. Yeah, something like that. Yeah, I've heard good things about it. Looking forward, recommending it to clients and then seeing how it works exactly. There's a lot of exciting things. It's a great time to be in email. I feel like there's a lot of exciting things happening, and I think more and more companies and businesses are realizing that like it should be a huge part of their strategy. And yeah, it should just be good for everyone.
This year has probably helped as well. If more people are remote, then more emails definitely going to be used more. So
absolutely, all these stores that couldn't just depend on store traffic to drive revenue had to, overnight really try to drive revenue with email and became their main focus.
Yep.
So anyway, thank you so much for coming on the show.
No, thank you.
Really appreciate it.
Yeah.
And yeah, tell your friends about it.
Yeah, will do.
All right, have a great one.
You too. Chat to you soon.
And Happy New Year.
Yes, Happy New Year.
Cheers. All right, that concludes our show for today. Thank you so much, anyone who's watching. If anyone has questions, I'm sorry I didn't open the floor, but if anyone has a question, please feel free to ask questions in the comments. I'm still here for another minute or two, but please feel free to ask a question. I can bring back Jay onto the feed. It doesn't look like there are any questions, so with that, I'm going to end the show today. Thank you so much for joining us for Inboxing. We'll be back. We don't know yet who our next guest is, but we know we're going to have Kath Pei on January 20th, so it's in 3 weeks. She just published a brand new book called Holistic Marketing, which should be a really, really interesting episode. But we're hoping to do another few episodes even before then. So stick around. You can get updates on my Facebook page. It's Hilleberg Email Marketing on Facebook, or it's facebook.com/email marketing consultants, and also on YouTube. It's a little bit harder to find. And that's it. Have a great New Year. Happy New Year to everyone. And good night.